On this week's show, the Georgia Southern basketball team's getting ready for a couple of home Sun Belt matchups. We'll let you know how things are going and also hear from Georgia Southern head basketball coach Mark Byington. All that and more as we welcome you inside the Eagles Nest. And welcome inside the Eagles Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined by Mike Anthony, sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald. And Mike, basketball, the big thing right now, we've still got another week before National Signing Day on the football side of things, and it sounds like, if the reports are right, they're starting to get on some pretty high recruits. But let's get into basketball, where Georgia Southern has had 3 games in a row on the road. This past week, they both were swept by Georgia State. The men playing without leading scorer Tukey Brown. Pretty tough loss right there. They've got a couple of big games this week. Your thoughts on where the guys are right now?
Well, the guys, I think, are where they want to be. Obviously, they would have liked to go into Georgia State and get a road win. We talked all season long about how tough those road wins are, how many road games Georgia Southern's played, and I think I mentioned it last week. Now 7 of their last 11 at Hanner Fieldhouse. All the students are in now. It should start to get pretty loud, pretty rowdy for the Eagles. They've got to take advantage, and hopefully they'll have Tukey Brown in the arsenal to take advantage with. It was stated that it was a head injury that he missed the Georgia State game with, kind of like an ankle sprain like we've talked about with Ike Smith. If it's a concussion thing, you never know. Sometimes they go away real quick. Sometimes you have to be really sure before you put him back out there. But either way, Georgia Southern just needs to find a way to play a complete 40 minutes of action. They did a good job of hanging in there tough without Tukey on the floor, but at about the 10-minute mark of the second half, things just started to get away, and without their leading scorer, they didn't quite have enough in the tank to get to the finish line and really let one get away. Well,
next up, they have Texas State and UT Arlington coming up this week. Arlington was the team that most people thought would win the league this year. They've had some big wins. They beat Oklahoma, among other teams, this year, but they've struggled a little bit in the league. They're 4-4 in conference play now. Texas State comes in. They're right above Georgia Southern, I guess, percentage points ahead, and they've kind of been the surprise of the league.
Texas State, the surprise of the league, maybe because teams can't quite figure out how to play them, or they aren't quite comfortable playing against the Bobcats. When you think about the Sun Belt Conference, you think about a lot of guard play, a lot of guys and teams that are able to shoot the three-pointer well, to really light it up and get hot and run up the score. Texas State, the exact opposite. They will grind the game to a halt. They'll get rebounds. They'll play tough defense. They will take every last second off of that shot clock. On offense, you go and look at their scores in the 50s, 60s. It's a high-scoring game if you get that far against Texas State. So that's where Georgia Southern's going to have to be disciplined. They aren't going to get easy shots. They do lead the league still in offensive rebounding. That's going to be vital against Texas State to be able to get every second chance you can. And then you look at UT Arlington, maybe the toughest team in the league to figure out. You mentioned their Jekyll and Hyde routine. They've got the defending player of the year. If you talk to some of their fans, they think that it's not necessarily a talent problem, but they're just not playing well together. Hopefully that'll last at least for one more week.
And a lot of times with these guys, they've got 2 guys apparently that have a chance of playing on the next level. And sometimes when those guys are in their senior years or about to leave, you never know where their heads are. We did have a chance to talk with head coach Mark Byington about how he feels the Eagles are doing right now. And joining me now, the head coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles, Mark Byington. And Coach, here in Hanner Fieldhouse, where you haven't been much, unfortunately. The last 3 games you've had have been on the road. You were able to win a couple of those a few weeks ago. And this past week you only had 1 game. It was at Georgia State. You were playing without Tukey Brown, your leading scorer. Weren't able to get it done. Your thoughts on how the past couple of weeks have gone?
Well, it's not any fun playing without Tukey. And, I was really proud of the guys. I thought we did a lot of good things at Georgia State. For us to be winning at halftime and with 15 minutes to go still winning the game, and at 10 they'll only be down 3, I thought where we needed to be able to win the game. And but what we did is we ran out of gas. And not having Tukey in his minutes, his leadership, and some other guys, the defense let us down. Guys were tired mentally and physically, and then Georgia State was able to take advantage of that.
As for the other games, you had Coastal. You won that one fairly handedly. A tough place to play and a pretty good team. And then you went to App, and it's always tough to win on the road. You're able to squeak one out there.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a winning road record right now, and that's not easy to do. And the thing about it is we played 9 of our last 11 games on the road. I bet we're probably the only team in the country that can say that. And for us to be able to, be on a nice little streak right now, we won 4 or 5, and we got a winning road record in the league. I think it's a good sign for this team, and the good thing is we play a lot more at home coming up lately. 7 of our final 11 are at home. We got 2 big ones coming up this week, but at the same time, we should be able to kind of get our legs, get the fans behind us, and do a lot of things coming up.
Yeah, you've got those games coming up here at Hanner, Texas State, and UT Arlington. What do you know about them? I know that one was picked to win the league, and they're both right there in the hunt right now.
Well, Texas State, who we have up first, is probably a surprise team in the league right now. I mean, they're in second place. They're a half game in front of us, and they're 6-2 in the league, and off to a great start. They got probably the best defensive team in the league, and they're always good on defense year after year. But they've got some guys who are buying in, doing some things on the offensive end. So big challenge there. And then UT Arlington on Saturday picked to win the league, won the regular season last year. They got 2 unbelievable seniors, and Kevin Hervey and Eric Neal, who are all conference guys, and Hervey's probably going to play in the NBA. So, big challenge, big week. Our guys are excited to be back home, and then we're playing 2 really good teams.
Hanner Fieldhouse, it's been here for quite a while. It's the oldest, I believe the oldest facility in the league. Georgia State's isn't probably too far away, but you guys have tried your best to kind of make this place kind of doll it up a little bit. The outside looks good. When you're coming in, it looks pretty good. And when it's rocking and when you get a crowd in here, it's definitely a good home floor advantage. Yeah,
we've tried to fix up some things and up front, and then different things with the entertainment value with speakers and things like that in here. But nothing makes up for fans sitting in the seats. And as much as we can do anywhere, you can have all the bells and whistles, but you need the energy of the fans being in the building to have a home court advantage. And right now we're 9th in the league in home court attendance, and we should be much better than that. We got a school of 20,000 students, and right now, being in Statesboro with what our team success we've had, hopefully people are kind of catching on, and maybe it takes to after New Year for people to realize it's basketball season, but we do have a lot coming up at home, a lot of good games, and hopefully get this place rocking.
Yeah, I know you did have, as you mentioned, most of your last games have been on the road, and then you had the Christmas break before that. And as you mentioned, people sometimes don't get into basketball season until after Christmas and thereabouts, and the football and the college football is out of the way. I would imagine you're pretty confident that the crowd will start coming out, because they were here last year.
Yeah, we hope so. A couple of years ago, our first year in the Sun Belt, we actually had one of the top home court attendances in the league. And we had a great environment with students and fans, and the energy in here was tremendous. And so we need to get that back. We've played a lot of our games. We tried to purposely play them when students were here. Our first 4 games, our non-conference games, we tried to play them when the students were here. And then we went on the road for 14 days. And then we've already had 2 conference games at home against the Arkansas teams. We were able to win those. So, I know our fans, kind of look at the games and they want to see what rival games, everything else. But, for coming out this week would be big. And hopefully, we play well and our guys are excited to play in them. And when the fans are here, I do think it's one of the best, if not the best place in Sun Belt to play games.
You don't have Tukey Brown. How long do you feel like that'll be before he's back? And in the meantime, what has to happen?
Well, it's out of our hands right now. It's in the medical hands. And so if it's not this week, it'll be next week. So we're hopefully sooner than later. I thought at Georgia State we had a lot of guys step up and play well even without him. But we do miss him. Hopefully we get him back. And when we do, I think we'll be stronger because some other guys learned some things, got some great experience.
All right. Well, Mark Byington, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back with more in just a moment.
Hey, Miss Thompson. Everything's fine. It's going to be no problem. I'll have you done in a few minutes.
My name is Tazy Nordhoff, part owner of Complete Car Care, and I want you to come see me.
And a reminder that Georgia Southern, Texas State, 5 o'clock for the women, 7 for the guys. And then the Saturday games will be 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock with, I guess, among other things, they're honoring the 60-point performance by
Fran Florian.
Back
in 1964.
And then they're also, all alumni are welcome back for free admission there on Saturday. Before we go, we mentioned it in the top of the show, Mike, recruiting right now as you get ready for big signing day coming up next week. Looks like the Eagles are on a couple of pretty big recruits, and we had a feeling that once we got everybody here, Coach DeBess, Coach Sloan, and they started kind of doing their thing, we might be able to get some, and it looks like some 3- and 4-star guys, actually.
Yeah, and I think you're starting to see some of the names that were way off the radar who maybe these new coaches had been talking to, had some contact or built a relationship with already. Now they're starting to enter the fold, but right now it's just a cat and mouse game. You know what some of the names are. You can see it on social media now. It becomes just a back and forth the last month or so. The rosters are set for now. There's the early signing period. A couple teams signed a bunch of guys. Georgia Southern signed a handful. Nobody else can make it official. They can't officially sign until February 7th. So you'll see talk about commitments. You'll see talk about decommitments. None of it's set in stone until February 7th. So whether you hear good news or bad news for Georgia Southern, it's all going to come down to a room full of nervous coaches huddled around a fax machine in a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, we'll have plenty of highlights, action, and let you know who Georgia Southern is officially has when that comes up on the 7th. But for now, that's going to wrap things up. For Mike Anthony, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.